Good evening, everybody, and happy, I guess this is the beginning of week, 16 this week. So happy Thursday. Welcome to another edition of Giants Collective. This is episode 93. I actually counted them out today to see where we are because I know we're closing in on 100. So we'll be like right at the end of the year. We're going to hit episode 100. The gang is back together. Anthony is back home and safe in warm Florida. Not that it wasn't bad here today. It was like in the middle 40s, which you kill for.
He picked the worst week, though, to come to New York.
Yeah, he did. He brought the he didn't bring the cold weather with him.
You say this was the worst week, but for somebody who's been trapped in the heat, 80-degree weather all year round for 10 years now, it was actually a very nice change of pace. It was really cold. It was probably a little too cold to be sitting at a Giants game on Sunday afternoon, but I enjoyed seeing some snow. It's been a while.
Especially
from what I saw on the camera, Anthony, you were the only one there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was empty. It was empty. It was quiet. That was the thing. Big plays, very quiet. I don't know. It was a disappointing game. I'm sure we'll get into it, but or I guess you guys already recapped it. But no, it was cold, it was quiet, and it was empty.
Yeah, but we are back together, and happy holidays to everybody out there. We appreciate you tuning in. As always, if you're tuned in on YouTube, if you could do us a favor, hit the thumbs up. That always helps us stream out more than you know. Closing in on 6,600 subscribers, so that would be good too if we could get there. That'd be great. You can check us out on TikTok and Instagram. You can also check us out wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. Of course, if you listen to us on Apple, and you could leave a 5-star review, that'd be great too. I know I'm asking a lot of you guys and girls, but I'm just saying it just helps out. The chin doesn't cost anything to do any of that stuff. And as always, shout out to our sponsors, Sleeper and SeatGeek. Of course, I mentioned this last time. You go to SeatGeek, enter the promo code Giants Collective 10 to get 10% off your tickets at SeatGeek. They do not need to be Giants tickets. Just so you know, just because it's Giants Collective 10, you know, Giants Collective is the name of the show, but you can get any tickets you want on SeatGeek. If you want to go watch the Knicks and Madison Square Garden, you want to go watch Boston Garden, you want to go watch the Nets, for whatever reason, I don't know who watches the Nets, but if you want to go watch any of those games, go ahead, enter that promo code Giants Collective 10, get 10% off whatever event you want to get at SeatGeek. Wanted to start off today. This was like the only topic I came up with because it was difficult to come up with topics. Sometimes it gets that way because we also did a post-game show on Sunday. So this is really our third show this week. But I just find it interesting, especially being on Twitter. I'm on Twitter a lot, as a lot of you know, and I love to talk my shit, which is good too. The one thing I love about Twitter, you never know if I'm trolling, truthing, or trashing. You'll never know what the hell I'm doing. Only I know if I'm being serious about the tweets that I put out there. But the one thing I see on a consistent basis, and again, Eagles fans are what they are, but, you know, people are just like, oh, Jackson Dart's had 5 concussions. I'm like, he's had 1 concussion. He's been evaluated 5 times. Evaluation doesn't mean 1. And people are like, well, you can have a concussion without having symptoms. Sure, then every damn football player out there has probably been concussed. It's a contact sport. Guys are getting hit. It's what the game is all about. But to me, I feel like the NFL is being overly cautious because of what happened in Chicago when he literally was concussed and they still let him play, which made no sense. And now if you sneeze on him, he goes in the 10. Adriana, what are your thoughts about it? You think that they're doing due diligence here? You think they're being a little bit overly cautious about it? How do you feel about Jackson Dart? It seems like every week he's in the blue tent.
Yeah, I ranted about this a little bit on my podcast today because I watched the clip from Hard Knocks and then I hear what Jackson Dart has to say. And the whole thing is very frustrating to me. And I think it should be very frustrating to Jackson Dart and the Giants. It sounds like part of it is because of that whole Bears game situation. It sounds like part of it is because he has a target on his back, which is very obvious, especially after this whole Commanders thing. But also he does kind of seem like he's looking for it. And, I think there are other quarterbacks who maybe just because it's not their rookie season or like some of the other guys who take hits, like we never had this issue with Daniel Jones, who used to take a lot of hits and, never ended up in the tent that much. So I really think that the Bears game was kind of like the thing that blew it all open because it sounds like it was an indictment on the league and an indictment on the Giants that it took everyone a minute to realize like, oh, hey, we should get this guy looked at before we do anything. But it's frustrating to me, but I also feel like if you're Jackson Dart, you got to suck it up a little bit and say, I'm going to try harder to slide. And I'm not going to allow Christian Ellis, whatever his name is, to make that type of hit on me. He could have pushed him out of bounds, and he didn't. He dove after him and went shoulder to shoulder. And I don't like that Dart is like, well, I've been doing this since high school. Well, I know I'm a target. This isn't like I'm used to this kind of stuff. I'm like, you're not really helping your cause here, bro. Like, I don't know. I feel like someone needs to be advising him. Maybe he's just got that stubborn piece of him that Dable had that he's just going to have to learn the hard way. There's 3 games left. I just don't want to see it happen. And I do feel like the last game when it happened, it was kind of bullshit because that wasn't really a head-to-head hit and whatever. But I don't know. Maybe if he's not injured, he's got to bounce back up quickly and he's just got to jump right up. But I do think as a whole, between the NFL and other teams, he's got a target on his back. And now that he knows that, he has to act appropriately. And I think he's got to be the one to make some sort of change until the season's over, because I don't think anyone else is going to do anything differently. The NFL has done what they've done, and now it's very obvious that I think they're going to continue to do that. And the second his head gets close or touches that turf, he's getting yanked out of the game. So I know he can't control the types of hits that other guys take to him, but if he could be a little more proactive on the sliding or get out of bounds, I don't know. Just try it.
By the way, I want to say sorry for the delayed start time. That's my fault. I fell asleep before the team meeting, so I'm going to be suspended for a quarter. Actually, Abdul Carter played really well. Let's hope that continues. Anthony, what is your take on the Jackson Dart? Seems like he's evaluated every week whenever he takes a hit.
Does anyone think he should have been evaluated for the hit that he took this week?
No.
Because it seemed like the most routine football play. I watch players, I mean, even if it's not a quarterback, that happens to every player, every single play. He barely even got touched. In fact, he went down to protect himself. He went down when he saw people in front of him to protect his body. He did what the NFL is telling him to do. Protect yourself, give yourself up, and go down. He does that. He gets grazed on the shoulder, and he goes off to the sideline to get put into the medical tent. It was ridiculous. And there's an ultra sensitivity towards Jackson Dart. And Adriana made a good point. Yes, the NFL messed up. The spotters messed up in Chicago. But I actually don't think that's why there's such a sensitivity. I think there's such a sensitivity to it dating back to that, week 6 when they beat the Philadelphia Eagles on primetime? Brian Dable running into the blue tent. I think that's what created the sensitivity. That put a national spotlight on Jackson Dart and his concussion history because it wasn't the first time he had been in the blue tent. He had been running into contact throughout that game. So everybody kind of noticed like, hey, this kid's kind of reckless. He likes to run into people. And now he's been in the tent a couple times and now it's persisted since then. And I just think because of that, having that national spotlight, the fact that the Giants had to go through a protocol review for their concussions because Dable went into the tent, because he got fined as a result and the Giants got fined, I just think that's put a spotlight on Jackson Dart, and it's caused such a sensitivity from the referees and from the NFL and NFL media at large. But I do think it's utterly ridiculous. I've been saying it, and I'm going to continue to say it. Jackson Dart likes to play aggressive. Jackson Dart likes to take on contact. That is okay. A lot of quarterbacks do that. He has to choose his battles. He has to pick and choose his fights, and he has to protect himself. Absolutely. But as long as he does protect himself, like he did against the Commanders, I am okay with him taking some hits sometimes and running into players because it is football at the end of the day. It is a contact sport. You're going to get hit. You just got to pick and choose your battles. I watch quarterbacks, great quarterbacks, every single week make the same plays that Jackson Dart does, and they don't get pulled off to the sideline. I don't think it's fair that he keeps getting pulled off to the sideline. And when you look at the moments in which it's happening, especially this past week, down on the goal line, they pull him out for 2 plays. The Giants go 4 and out on the goal line, probably as a result. I think if Jackson Dart's out there for all 4 plays, they score a touchdown, and it is a different ball game. So it's hurting the team now that the NFL is being so sensitive towards Jackson Dart and his concussion history, which, reminder, he's only ever had 1 in his lifetime. Yes, he's gone to the blue tent 5 times. He's had 1 concussion in his whole life. This is not a player who entered the league with concussions in college. He played this way in college, never suffered a concussion. He played this way in high school, never suffered a concussion. He's only got the 1 in his entire 22 or 23 years of life, whatever it is. So I'm really not worried about it. I think right across the sideline to the team that we're facing this week, I watched J.J. McCarthy have much tougher hits that he took in this past game, and he didn't get pulled off to the sideline. Josh Allen literally takes that same hit probably 3 times a game doesn't get pulled off the sideline. So I think I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but I do think it's frustrating. I think it's just an ultra sensitivity that doesn't need to be there. And I think that the Giants now becoming so averse to allowing Jackson Dart to run is a little bit ridiculous. He is a weapon with his legs. He has made history this season as a rushing quarterback. And all of a sudden the Giants are basically nuking their playbook, taking the designed quarterback runs out of it and nerfing his skill set that's so special because of his dual threat ability. I don't think that's the way to go about it either. He's really good as a runner. The Giants need to keep him as a runner. He just needs to protect himself, and the NFL needs to stop being so sensitive.
Chris, what's your takeaway from, like I said, it seems like every time he gets hit, sneezed on, looked at funny, he goes to the blue tent.
Yeah, I mean, I agree mostly with what Anthony said and a little bit of what Adriana said as well. I think I'm a little bit more I'm not as quite as free as Anthony is in terms of I want him to go out there and I want him to take contact. I think he's got to be a lot smarter than he's been. But this game in particular, I don't think he did anything wrong. I think he did what I wanted him to do. I think he avoided contact when it was appropriate for the most part throughout the course of that game. Like Anthony said, even on the play where he got evaluated, he actually slid. Now, he did get hurt on that play, but it had nothing to do with a concussion. It was it seemed like it was like a lower body injury. And maybe that's what they were evaluating. I don't know. But it does seem like they've been a little bit over the top in terms of the blue tent usage for Jackson Dart, for whatever the reason is. Maybe it was because of the way that they handled it in the Bears game, whatever it may be. As far as what the Commanders said on Hard Knocks, that's the NFL. And at the end of the day, if you're they didn't say anything wrong. If you're a quarterback that refuses to avoid contact, they're going to treat you like a running back, like they basically said on Hard Knocks. And Jackson Dart has to be smarter, in my opinion, and avoid contact when it's not necessary to take unnecessary hits. And I think we all agree with that for the most part. So I think it's something he's got to continue to get better at. But this last game in particular, I thought he did do a good job in terms of avoiding contact for the most part. He didn't really take any unnecessary hits. I want him to be used as a runner, but he's not Josh Allen. I know Anthony brought up Josh Allen, that he takes like 3 hits a game. Josh Allen is built like a linebacker. Jackson Dart is not built like a linebacker. He's not built, in my opinion, at least, he's not built to take the hits that a guy like a Josh Allen takes. So he's got to be smarter with his usage, but I agree that they can't take his legs completely out of his game because that's part of who he is. It's part of what makes him a dynamic player.
I had no problem. Excuse me. No problem with what the commander said. That's what you want to do. Every freaking, like when Jackson Dart said, I heard that in college, that's every meeting. That's every locker room, man. That's every meeting. Knock the shit out of the quarterback. That's the whole point of the defenders being out there, is to kill the quarterback. And if you make yourself a target to be hit, of course they're going to line up and try to kill you. That's the game. That's what it's supposed to be. There's a lot of things here. It is frustrating because, again, I understand. And this has just kind of become a pattern now. I do think that the Bears game, you talked about Dable going into the tent. I remember he went into the tent and they obviously hurried him out of there. That was a big, ne'er to do. You don't want to do that shit in the NFL. He could find it. But I remember him coming back. out a couple plays later, launched himself into the defender like a lawn dart with his head first.
That was the worst one for me.
And I'm like, bro, you got to relax a little bit.
Yeah.
But to Anthony's point, I don't want him to stop being aggressive. I felt like in the first half, the Giants tried to make Jackson. I'm not saying Jackson Dart can't throw over in the pocket, but I felt like they kind of took the reins off from to run the football. And he struggled in the first half. He did not play good. The second half, it was kind of like, bro, just go do your shit. Just protect yourself, He had a couple runs. He slid down. He didn't get hit really hard at all. And he had a great second half. He threw for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. And we had a fucking guy that could catch Darius Slayton couldn't catch COVID in a fucking phone booth with 5 infected people. Right? He can't catch shit. But he'd have 200. Jackson Dart would have 210 and 3 touchdowns. How many touchdowns have receivers dropped? It's got to be at least 3 or 4 this year.
Slayton himself has dropped 2.
Neo's dropped a couple. It's just crazy. And then the one interception he threw, like I said, I got killed on Twitter, but Brian Baldinger kind of, so what I said is a terrible route by Jalen Hyde. He rounded that shit off. He didn't finish it. Somebody told me on Twitter, oh, the ball's late. I'm like, you're fucking stupid. How is it late if it's in front of him? And then another guy told me he's got to throw it behind, like his back shoulder. I'm like, you throw it his back shoulder. He's running the opposite direction from the ball. He's got to dig and cut, and the ball's there. There's no interception. It's that simple. At the very least, he needs to fight with the guy to knock the ball away. But I'm getting off topic. Jackson Dart, when he's allowed to just be himself, when he's allowed to play with free reign and just kind of improvise and do his shit, we all know he's really good off script, and the Giants cannot take that away from him. But to your point, Chris, and we've mentioned this a lot on this show, he's just got to learn how to take the hits. He's got to learn how to the situations of when to get out of bounds. Like I said, 3rd down and 15, you're 10 yards, 5 yards away from the first down marker. Don't try to get an extra yard by putting your head down, dude. Go out of bounds. If it's 4th down and 1 and you have to fight for a yard to get the first down, I understand that. So I think Jackson Dart can't take away what he does. I want to see him aggressive, but I also think he needs to learn situational football, which is funny because we all know our coaches don't fucking know situational football. So who's teaching them situational football? None of them know how to do it. We've seen it all year. So I think the NFL is being a little bit overprotective of Jackson Dart. Hopefully when this year's over and we have a new coaching staff, we have a new season, the shit stops. Because, Anthony, like you mentioned, there's a play, J.J. McCarthy runs right into the linebacker like this with his head like this, gets the shit bent back the other way. Nothing happens to him. Jackson Dart, you flick his ear up. Good, put him in the tent, man. He's got a concussion. You got to check him for a concussion. It's utterly ridiculous, man. So that's my take on it. Let's hope that he doesn't have to spend any time in the blue tent. People are going to start saying he's a camper. And he ought to get a sponsorship from Coleman Tents at this point because he's always in the damn tent. So with that said, let's go on to the head coaching candidates. Obviously, Mike Kafka's not it. We watched Hard Knocks. No, we've seen the results on the field. He's not a head coach for this team. So, Anthony, who do you like for head coach? I also wanted to ask you, because I know you mentioned it. So we have to get Anthony's thoughts on Brian Burns' defensive usage by Charlie Bolin, who will not be our defensive coordinator next year. But Anthony said, ask me about that. So I'm going to ask you about that. And then I want to get your head coaching candidates for next year. Go ahead.
I said, don't ask me about that.
So you know I was going to. I mean, come on, man.
So I knew you were going to.
That I'm going to do it.
Okay, so when I was watching that game, I have a particular affinity for Brian Burns. I like to watch him play. So I was watching him in particular because I was on the sideline at the game and I was just dialed in trying to watch Burns. Why is he not getting after the quarterback? Someone needs to explain this to me. He is your best pass rusher. It's 3rd down. I don't want to see him dropping back 8 yards in the coverage. That makes no sense. It was a problem with Shane Bowen. It's a problem now with Charlie Bolin. Is everybody who's coaching this defense for the New York Giants just fucking stupid? Your best pass rusher needs to get after the quarterback. It's not that hard. It's just plain and simple. And it's not even that he drops in the coverage sometimes, because maybe I'm overblowing that. It only happened 5 times in a game. It's the situations in which he dropped in the coverage, which is what we keep talking about. The situational play calling with this team is fucking terrible. So you've got Brian Burns dropping back into coverage on 3rd down. And if he's not dropping back into coverage on 3rd down, maybe it's 2nd down, maybe it's 3rd down, and he is going after the quarterback. He's not really going after the quarterback. If you notice what they're doing with him, they keep having him play QB contain. Guys, newsflash. Marcus Mariota, he's been in the league like 10 years now. He's not the same player that he was when he was a rookie, a 1st-round draft pick. He does not run the way that he used to. You do not need Brian Burns playing quarterback contain. You do not need him spying in the fucking A-gap against Marcus Mariota of all people. Let him get after the quarterback. It's sickening to watch because he had such a great pace this season. He's up to 13 sacks, which is still number 2 in the NFL right now. But over the last 3 weeks, he hasn't gotten one, and that's because they're not letting him get after the quarterback. It's actually amazing. We had so much shit to say about Shane Bowen, and ever since Shane Bowen was fired, their best defensive player is not playing like their best defensive player anymore. He can't even apply that pressure to the quarterback anymore because they don't know what to do with him. It's such incredibly bad coaching. It actually dumbfounds me. It amazes me. This coaching staff that Brian Dable put together is an absolute joke. And you know what? Joe Shane, he had his hand in it because this guy, Charlie Bolin, is Joe Shane's friend. So that's an indictment on Joe Shane too, which is something I always go back to. I think Joe Shane did a terrible job constructing this football program, if you want to look at it from that perspective. So I want to see Brian Burns actually rush the passer. Myles Garrett is just running away with the sack crown this year. He's going to break Michael Strahan's record. I think that's almost set in stone now. What does he need? One to tie it, 1.5 to break it. He's got 3 games to do it. He's going to do it.
He's going to break it.
But Brian Burns was on incredible pace. It should have been a neck and neck race, in my opinion. Burns should have been up to 20 by the end of the season. I don't think he's going to get there now, and I really think that's because the coaching staff just stopped letting him rush the passer. I think it's incredibly frustrating. So I said my piece on that. That's that. I'll let somebody else start with the head coaching search, and then I'll dive back into it because I don't want to take up too much of the floor at once. So, Chris, I want to hear your head coaches.
I mean, I left out, the unlikely scenarios like a Tomlin, who's a guy that I would love, a John Harbaugh. If those guys, of course, become available, they'd be at the top of my list. But of the guys that we've heard countless times, I listed, I think it's 7 names: Clint Kubiak, Mike McCarthy, Steve Spagnuolo, Lou Anarumo, Marcus Freeman, Jeff Hafley, and I think that's it, actually, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 6 names. Those are the 6 names I wrote down. And for my personal preference, as I've said countless times, for this specific Giants teams, based off of what they've done in the past, I think just naturally as a fan or even as a decision maker of the football team, you usually want to do something you haven't done recently, switch it up. So for me, I want experience. So in terms of being a head coach, because of course all these guys have experience, but not many of them have experience as a head coach. Mike McCarthy, for that reason and that reason alone, is at the top of my list. He's number 1. I don't love him. I'm not screaming to hire him, but I think for this specific team, out of the names that I listed, I think he makes the most sense. I don't need to go over the accolades. He's a Super Bowl winning head coach, 3 straight 12-win seasons with the Dallas Cowboys. You could point to some of the things that he wasn't able to accomplish. Couldn't get Dallas, I think, out of the second round of the playoffs. Only won 1 Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. But at the end of the day, he's a quality head coach. It's something that the Giants need. I feel like he would get this team at least back to respectability. And if you feel he's not the guy 3 or 4 years from now to get your team to the Super Bowl, then you make a change there. But I think the Giants need to get out from under the doormat of the NFL. And I think he would help them in doing that. He'd be able to, organize a good coaching staff. I think he's capable of doing that. So he'd be at the top of my list. The only other guy with head coaching experience in the NFL, and he wouldn't be 2 on my list, is Steve Spagnuolo. That's mainly due to his age, why he wouldn't be a 2 on my list. He did get an opportunity with the Rams, was not a successful head coach, didn't have a great team, of course, but did not do a good job while he was the head coach there. The Giants had the opportunity to actually make him the head coach, but they elected to go with Ben McAdoo when they went with the offensive coordinator, but mainly due to his age and the fact that I don't think he's really going to leave Kansas City because he's basically being paid as much or nearly as much as a head coach is there. But maybe they may be blowing that team up with the way that they've fiddled out this year. But he's the only other guy with head coaching experience at the NFL level, but he wouldn't be 2 for the reasons that I expressed. Number 2 for me, this was tough because I was going back and forth. Shula is the hot name. He's the guy that everybody wants. If you talk to most Giant fans on Twitter, he's young, but he's only got 2 years as a defensive coordinator. The Rams have done a good job this year. I think they're top 5 or 6 in defense. Of course, learning under McVay certainly helps in terms of being an attractive head coaching candidate. I actually went with, and maybe a lot of people aren't going to like this, I went with Hafley as my number 2 candidate when I looked over his resume. And again, we don't get to interview any of these guys, but the guy's been, I think, a defense coordinator now for 2 years with the Green Bay Packers. They've been top 6 in defense each of those years. He was a former head coach, not at the NFL level, but at the collegiate level with Boston College for 3 years, had success there, which is why he became an NFL defensive coordinator. So he'd be 2 for me. Marcus Freeman would actually be 3 for me. I'm a big Notre Dame fan. You got the head coaching experience there, but that's a risky proposition, right? You look over the course of history, college head coaches don't always translate well in the NFL. Matter of fact, most of the time they don't, especially like not a guy like a Harbaugh, for example, who already had head coaching experience, somebody who's never coached in the NFL. So that's the riskiest proposition, but I also think it's probably the highest upside of all the names that we're going to talk about. That's why I have him at 3. I'll go Shula at 4, and I'd be happy if we hired him. He's an exciting hire, another guy with high upside. I'll go Kubiak at 5, only mainly due to the fact that I feel like it wouldn't be doing something different. The Giants have hired the last 4 head coaches they've hired have all basically been OCs outside of Joe Judge, who was a special teams coordinator. I do like the fact that he learned under one of the best head coaches in the league with the San Francisco 49ers for a year with Shanahan. And he has been an OC at 3 different stops, albeit only for a year. And Seattle has been one of the more surprising teams this year. They've been great. So I'd have him at 5. And again, none of these names are going to be names that I scoff at if they hire them. But for me, far and away, for my main reason, I want a guy with head coaching experience. And out of the guys I listed, the only real guy with like significant head coaching experience at the NFL level with success is, of course, McCarthy. So that's why he's my number one. And the guys I listed, that's how I'd have the rest of my list.
Adriana.
My list is a little bit shorter than that. I think those are all good candidates. I lean towards someone who's more experienced. I know that everyone wants like a leader of men. And I think any of the candidates that we've discussed that's on probably all of our lists at that point probably cover off on that. I would personally prefer someone who's already been a head coach, though, because I just feel like one of my biggest concerns is because this team is so young, especially with that rookie quarterback, there's so much that they need to learn and they need to improve upon in what feels like a short amount of time, that I worry that any coordinator who's a first-time head coach like Brian Daboll was, is trying to learn how to be a head coach at the NFL level and learning how to do clock management and everything else that comes with being a head coach versus a coordinator, while simultaneously having to get this team to win games. Now, I know the fan base, we want to go to the playoffs next year, but John Mara is not going to tell the coach it's playoffs or you're fired next year. So I know that's not going to be the big focus there. Obviously, the focus is to win football games, but I just worry that the coordinator and head coach pipeline like just makes me a little bit nervous after everything that we've witnessed with this Giants team. So I know we've talked about Tomlin before. He's my top choice. I don't think he's going to get fired, but what I do think is that if they don't make the playoffs or they get knocked out in the first round, they don't have Aaron Rodgers next year, like they're going to have to figure out what they're doing kind of with a lot of different things, then I could see Tomlin and the Steelers like mutually parting ways, and then he's going to come to the Giants. So that's what I'm asking for Christmas. But I think out of the coordinators, the one that I do like the most is also Chris Shula, because from everything that I understand, I obviously like Sean McVay. I think working that closely with Sean McVay is going to be very beneficial for him. He's done a great job as the Rams defensive coordinator, has some good experience. I also think he's got great relationships in the NFL and he's well respected. So he's going to be able to bring in a great offensive coordinator. And the thing to me that makes him stand out a little bit more as a coordinator to head coach pipeline is that he's supposedly been primed by Sean McVay to be a head coach. So I'm under the assumption that he's one step ahead of a Kubiak or a Kingsbury or someone like that, a Hafley, who has not been the head coach or not been that close to the opportunity for that. So Shula is my number one outside of Tomlin. I also really like Jeff Hafley. I think there's a lot of good that I've seen what he's done from that Packers defense. I'm really curious to see what he does this weekend without Micah Parsons now and try to figure out how to make that work. I don't love Mike McCarthy. I like that he has experience. I like what Chris said. You know, he's probably going to get this team to win double-digit games year after year, which is something that as Giants fans we have not seen in forever. So I like the idea of that. My big concern with him is that I don't know how well he's going to do with Jackson Dart. And the reality is Jackson Dart's our quarterback for the next 4 years at the minimum. And I want someone who I feel like is going to be able to be better suited for that role. And I don't feel super confident about the coordinators that someone like Mike McCarthy is going to bring in. So for me, if it's between him and a Hafley or a Shula, I'm taking one of those guys. Like I don't love Anarumu. And Marcus Freeman is the last one I want to touch on. I love Marcus Freeman. I love what he did at Notre Dame. I'm not necessarily a Notre Dame fan, but I have watched a good amount of their games. They have a shitload of talent that is coming out of that school. It is very impressive what they have done there. I know there's a lot of talk that they didn't beat, the actual people in the division, whatever, that they needed to beat. And I get that. But I think that Marcus Freeman would be well respected. I think he's younger. I think that is also beneficial to having a really young team like this. But I think he's able to provide a different respect level. And from what I understand, the difference between him and Daboll from that type of like younger personality situation is he's not the player's type of coach. And when even someone like Jermaine Illuminor comes out and says, that is not the guy. Like, we don't need a player's coach. Like, we need someone who's going to come in here and be a leader and tell us what to do and holds people accountable and have a certain standard that you set and you don't fall below that's unacceptable. That's what we need in a head coach. And I think maybe it's fair to assume that Marcus Freeman is capable of doing that.
Yeah, I think of all the guys we mentioned outside of Tomlin, even though I have McCarthy one for the reasons that I stated, the guy that would excite me the most is Freeman because I think he has the highest ceiling, but he's also probably the guy that has the highest probability of busting. So he's high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
For me, I don't think there's much. I've been saying it for weeks now. Mike McCarthy to be my guy. But the Giants have tried coordinators for the last 8 years, and we have been the worst team in the NFL. I mean, I'm not saying there's an exact science. We've talked about this before. You can look at Vrabel doing a great job there. You can look at Ben Johnson doing a great job in Chicago, and the Jacksonville Jaguars head coaching escapes me right now. But another coordinator that has come out and completely turned around a program. It's just Mike McCarthy knows how to win football games. You can knock him for his playoff losses. That's fine. But the Giants never get to the playoffs anyway. So like you mentioned, Chris, if we go to the playoffs 3 years in a row, I mean, man, that'd be a godsend. When the hell was the last time that happened? When's the last time the Giants went to the playoffs 3 years in a row? 06, 07, and 08. So we're talking 20 years ago. So you give me a guy in here that wins 10, 11 games in regularity. He's won a Super Bowl. He's worked with some of the best quarterbacks they work with. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of football. Dak Prescott, you can knock him for his lack of play. You can say, is that McCarthy or is that Dak Prescott? People always want to knock Dak Prescott for not winning playoff games, but Dak Prescott is a damn good quarterback. He's leading the league in passing yards. So McCarthy knows how to get an offense going. And Adriana mentioned she didn't like his coordinators. I feel like he's had good coordinators. I mean, Dan Quinn was fantastic. That was a head coaching job. Kellen Moore was really good there. Went to the Eagles as the offensive coordinator, won a Super Bowl. Now he's with the Saints, and the Saints are actually starting to play a little bit better. I actually think McCarthy can get good coordinators. I don't know what these other coordinators are going to bring in or what a guy like Freeman is going to bring in as far as coordinators go. For me, again, I know McCarthy's not the sexy pick. And if they didn't hire him, I'm not going to be all up in arms, man. I don't really know what the hell to expect from the Giants. I'm not expecting much. I don't give a shit who their coaches. I told you, I'm predicting win 2 games next year. I'm not getting excited about this team. I just feel like a voice of experience is what this team needs right now. Somebody that comes in there and can command respect because they can look at him and go, this guy's won a championship. This guy worked with Aaron Rodgers. Jackson Dart can look at him and go, this guy worked with Aaron Rodgers. Okay, this guy worked with Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's a top 10 quarterback in the league. He knows how to get the best out of the quarterbacks. And again, I feel like he's hired good coordinators. He's got a shitload of experience, and I think the players would respect a guy like that. I'm not saying they wouldn't respect a Hafley or a Kubiak or a Free or any of those other guys, but they have no track record as a head coach in the NFL. That kind of concerns me. And I just feel like McCarthy is the safest bet, probably the most unsexy pick that you could have because people are like, oh, God, not McCarthy. But he wins, man. And the Giants have got to bring back a winning culture. They need a winning culture. They got to find a way to win regular season games so they build confidence, so they learn how to win. And then they can say, okay, we can do this. And then, if, like I said, we're in the playoffs 2 or 3 years in a row, and we can't get out of the first round, then you can say, okay, you know what? McCarthy took us from here to here. Now it's time to find the guy to take us from here to the top.
Mike Brown for the Knicks. Get that guy.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, he's not the sexiest pick, but Baddog, I agree with you. From out of the realistic names, because of all the reasons you suggested, McCarthy's my number one. I'm not excited to say that.
I'm not either.
He's not a guy that gets me all jacked up and pumped up.
I mean, you do dream about the 300-pound man, and he's in that category.
I do. But you know another guy, and I've said this before, and I wish I could go back in time and remember who were the candidates in 2004 when we hired Coughlin, because I don't know. But Coughlin probably wasn't thought to be a sexy hire either when the Giants brought him in. He had a lot of the perceived deficiencies of a McCarthy. A lot of people viewed him as a guy. He was able to consistently win you 10, 11 games, but he couldn't get the Jaguars over the top. He came to the Giants. He was older. And obviously he's the second greatest coach we've ever had. So, or at least in the Super Bowl era. So, sometimes not the sexiest pick sometimes may be the right one.
All right. Anthony, who do you like?
I like all the guys that were mentioned. Number one on my list is Chris Shula. I like Chris Shula the most because I also want a head coach who has experience ideally, but those guys are so few and far between. You know, you're talking about Mike McCarthy and who else? Spagnuolo hasn't been a head coach in 15 years. The only guy who has recent head coaching experience that's going to be available more likely than not is Mike McCarthy. But he's not number one on my list simply for the fact that Chris Shula, to me, if the Giants aren't going to go the experience route, I think that Shula just has potential beyond what the Giants have dreamed of with any of their most recent hirings. The Shermer hiring did not have that kind of potential. The Joe Judge hiring definitely did not have that kind of potential. And Brian Daboll had great potential, but I think Chris Shula far exceeds that because Brian Daboll had bounced around the league all over the place. One of the reasons he got hired by the Giants is because he worked under Bill Belichick's staff years and years ago. But the thing with Chris Shula is that he very recently was working right next to Sean McVay. He's been on McVay's staff since 2017. He's best friends with McVay. He, of course, was a college roommate with McVay. So they've been working together for a very long time. And since he joined that staff in 2017, not only has he been a defensive assistant on McVay's staff, obviously cut his teeth, became the defensive coordinator. There were several internal interviews that happened, and there were guys who were considered far more qualified for that role than Chris Shula. But Chris Shula won that job based on the way that he interviewed in the process with Sean McVay, and he has absolutely established himself as one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL since he's gotten that job. So he's earned it. And what's really exciting is when you read into what Sean McVay has done to develop Chris Shula, he's the defensive coordinator, but he does a lot of offensive side of the ball coaching. He does a lot of offensive side of the ball game planning because Sean McVay wants him to learn how to be a CEO so that he can become a head coach one day. So the same way that a head coach like Sean McVay, offensive coach, sure, but he has to go to those defensive meetings. He has to sit on those game plans, and he has to have an involvement on that side of the ball, even though he's an offensive coach. Chris Shula has been doing that as well, but on the other side, just so that he can get prepared to be a head coach. And I think that's really exciting.
I just want to add one thing to what you're saying. And I agree with a lot of the things you're saying. And I think that's why a lot of Giants fans are excited that he's a potential candidate. I'd be happy if we hired him. I will push back a little bit on the fact that you said Joe Judge didn't have potential. You can make an argument that Joe Judge and Shula as coaching prospects are very similar. Joe Judge was handpicked by Bill Belichick. He was supposed to be his the guy. He was the guy that, at least from what I understood, if I remember when we hired him, that he said, yeah, this is going to be the next great coach. Hire him, New York Giants. So if that's just one thing I wanted to add. Not that I'm comparing him to Judge, but I thought Judge had a similar perceived strength when we hired him as a head coach. You learned under Bill Belichick. He was handpicked by Bill Belichick to be the guy that was going to be the next great head coach.
Let me ask you this. As a coordinator, as an offensive coordinator, would you consider, because he's going to lose his job, I have a feeling, would you consider bringing in Mike McDaniel?
Yeah, I would consider it. But I want to get back to that Chris Shula thing that Chris just mentioned, because I guess I see your comparison there with Joe Judge, but I don't think that the potential was really the same just because Joe Judge was a special teams coach.
Yeah.
Like he didn't coach one of the best defenses in football. And so that's where I see the difference. And at the same time, a lot of people overlook this. Chris Shula was a passing game coordinator a few years ago. He was coaching defense and offense at the same time. He was not just coaching on defensive side of the ball. He actually has coached the offense. And I don't think there's any other candidates on this list that have actually coached on both sides of the ball. And I think that's a really big plus. Having that knowledge of the game from both sides is really important. So I like Chris Shula. Like I said, he's number one for me just because of potential and because I think he's just most prepped out of any of the coordinators for the job. Number two, though, for me is Mike McCarthy, because if they're not going to take that big swing with Shula, just go with the safest guy. Go with the guy who's going to get you to the playoffs. I've beat that dead horse many, many times here on this channel. So I'll just add a couple of stats for Mike McCarthy. The last time that the New York Giants won 12 games was 2008. Mike McCarthy has won 12 games in the regular season 5 times since then. So if you're scoffing at the idea of Mike McCarthy, you must not like winning football games. And that must be why. That must be why you love the New York Giants, because you don't love winning football games. Believe me, I know. I've done a lot of research on McCarthy, and I will say I think that his ability to hire coordinators is probably his biggest selling point, because when you look back on his career, I think he's had 5 or 6 guys go on to be head coaches after working under his staff. One of those, of course, being Ben McAdoo. He was on the staff with Mike McCarthy. Joe Philbin as well. Schottenheimer, I think, is actually doing. I think Schottenheimer's doing an all right job right now with Dallas.
Their defense is bad, but other than that, it's not.
Yeah, their offense is great. Anybody who's been an offensive coordinator under Mike McCarthy has continued to run a great offense. He knows what he's doing on that regard, and he also hires really good defensive coaches. They had great defenses in Green Bay, and of course the Dan Quinn thing. So I really like Mike McCarthy. I think that he would reset the floor for the Giants way above where it is right now, because right now the floor is, in the crater.
The floor is lava.
Earth, so.
The floor is lava over there.
So then outside of that, those other guys that you all mentioned, I like Jeff Hafley. I think Chris made a great point. His experience being a head coach at Boston College is super valuable. People overlook that. Just playing that role, there's no way to replicate it. Like, as much as I just praised Chris Shula for having, he's being groomed by Sean McVay to become a head coach. He has never actually served in that role. He doesn't know what it's like to be the top guy that people have to answer to, or that, he has to answer to the media and take all accountability for everything. Jeff Hafley has that because he was the head coach at Boston College, and he's been a great defensive coordinator. So he's super attractive to me. Marcus Freeman, like Chris said, biggest, riskiest guy. Like, the potential is great, but that's a severe risk because he's never even coached in the NFL. I have no idea what his coordinators would look like, but I do know he's a damn good leader, and the Giants do need that. And then the fifth guy on my list, I can't even remember who it is, but you guys probably already mentioned him and broke him down. Oh, Kubiak. Kubiak to me is, like Chris said, very similar to things that we've already done, and that's why he's lower on my list than the rest of these guys. But I will say, when you look at Kubiak's history, working with Kirk Cousins, all of Kirk Cousins' best seasons are when Kubiak was with the Vikings. Brock Purdy's best season is the one season that Kubiak was with the San Francisco 49ers. Sam Darnold's best season is this season. It's because he's working with Clint Kubiak. I think that guy really is a QB whisperer.
And not to say that Kubiak wouldn't be successful as a coach, because like you said, it's a complete unknown. We don't know. We don't know with any of these guys, really. Even McCarthy, we don't know.
Don't know anything.
But the Kubiak, what you just broke down for me, that sounds exactly what Pat Shurmur sounded like when he got the job with the New York Giants. Nick Foles had the fourth or fifth highest QB rating in the history of the NFL the one year that he was the coordinator with the Eagles. Case Keenum had a great year, his only year as the starting quarterback, which got Shurmur the job when he was a top 10 quarterback. He's been dog shit outside of that when Shurmur was his offensive coordinator. So it sounds eerily similar to Pat Shurmur, and maybe that's why he was lower on my list, just because I want something different.
Me too. That's why he is lower on my list, because I see the same thing. But outside of that, man, I'm not interested in Lou Anarumo. If the Giants hire Lou Anarumo, I can guarantee you Joe Shane is the one making that hire.
I was going to say, the only way he's getting hired is if Joe Shane is still there. If we have a new GM, he's not going to get hired.
The Colts have kind of fallen off too, so I feel like he's fallen off as a potential head coaching candidate too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the Vikings in a second here. This portion was brought to you by our friends at SeatGeek. Let's hear from them. We'll talk about the Vikings a little bit and get to your questions. 80 seconds back after this. What's going on, guys and gals? You looking for a fun activity? You want to get out of the house? You need something to do? Are you looking for a great gift idea? Well, if so, look no farther than the sponsor of Giants Collective, which is SeatGeek. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There's more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. Giants season is underway. And say you want to check out Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders at MetLife Stadium? Well, it's easy. Just go to SeatGeek, scroll around, look for the tickets that you want, and SeatGeek's going to have your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. That's good. The red dots, well, it's not so good. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And of course, I have a code for you guys. You can use the code Giants Collective for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with the promo code Giants Collective. Make sure you click that link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek, for sponsoring Giants Collective, and let's go Giants! Again, you don't need to get Giants tickets. You can get whatever tickets you want on SeatGeek. Use that promo code Giants Collective 10 to get 10% off, whatever it is. They should be giving you 50% off of Giants tickets at this point. There's only a couple more home games. Anyway, this portion of Giants Collective brought to you by our friends at Sleeper. Big shout out to Sleeper. Fastest growing app out there. You can play daily fantasy contests, college football, college basketball, NBA, and so much more. You can do them entries within less than 30 seconds or so. You can do them for as little as $1 an entry. You can score up to 1,000 times your cash. Enter the promo code HMA to get a 100% match deposit bonus on your first deposit. And even better than that, if you just want to try out Sleeper because you don't have an account, want to play it for free, we got you covered. Click the link in the description, open a brand new Sleeper account. That's it. Click that link, open a brand new account, you get $20 for free. Nothing is required. Okay, no credit card or debit card, no deposit, no nothing. And if you like it and want to make a deposit, you're still eligible for the 100% match deposit bonus. Use that promo code HMA. Terms and conditions apply. Have fun, win some cash, and check out Sleeper. The one thing I love about Sleeper, I'm really shitty about picking or like football game. I'm not good at picking the NFL, covering spreads, not covering. I suck at it. But Sleeper is, like I said, daily fantasy contest is over under on stats. I'm much better at that. So that's up my alley. But it's definitely something different, which is why it's the fastest scoring app out there.
Do they have tent visits for Jackson Dart on the Sleeper?
They probably do have tent visits. And, I think when we do the game this weekend, Chris, we will set the over under. Or we'll do like which one's more, the tent visits or my bathroom breaks on Sunday. We'll see which one gets more. Real quick, we can go over the Vikings thing, and any of you guys can start. What do you expect from this game against 9? I laughed, said this shit ain't about 6'7". This shit's about 6'9". If you know, you know. Yeah, okay. I'm still juvenile, but what do you guys expect?
Not a win.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree with Anthony. If you would have told me a week or two ago, I would have said we have a real good chance to win this game. And hey, it's the NFL, and the Vikings aren't great, but the Vikings have looked a lot better the last 2 weeks.
And McCarthy's playing better.
McCarthy's playing better. They destroyed the Commanders 31-0. They beat the Cowboys this past week, right, on primetime in a game that the Cowboys desperately needed to even have a chance to make the playoffs. So I am expecting a loss this week. I agree with Anthony. I don't know if we'll get blown out in the manner in which the Commanders did. But McCarthy's starting to look better. If you watch that Cowboys game, albeit it's the Cowboys and their defense is not that good, even though many have led us to believe with the addition of Quinn Williams that they were starting to turn the corner. Well, I didn't see it. But McCarthy looked like he's starting to get a grasp of that offense. And I know Anthony and me were both big fans of him coming out as a prospect. A lot of people have been making fun of him, rightfully so.
I make fun of him all the time.
He's played like crap up until the last 2 or 3 weeks. But I still think he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL, and I think you're starting to see that. And I expect to see him to continue to play well, not so much because he's played great the last 2 weeks, more so because he's playing the Giants, whose defense couldn't stop anybody. So I think we'll lose, but hopefully Jackson Dart looks, good. That's what.
Just throw a shitload of touchdowns to Jordan Addison, please.
Yeah.
In the fantasy playoffs, and I told you, this is the worst case scenario. I lost Daniel Jones the last regular week of the season. I lost him. We had a bye last week. Lost him, and now we lost Devontae Adams. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? So I need Jordan Addison. It's a good week to play the Giants if you're a fantasy football. And because the Giants are behind, I also have Wan'Dale Robinson. Hopefully they throw the ball to him a shitload too. I don't know.
You bring up Addison. I heard this stat on the radio, actually. It's a crazy stat. Do you know who has the lowest quarterback wide receiver rating in the NFL? Like, meaning that when he throws to a specific
McCarthy and Addison.
McCarthy and Jefferson.
Oh, is it Jefferson?
They have the lowest rating in the NFL, which is insane. It's like a 40 quarterback rating when he throws to Justin Jefferson.
I have Jefferson in fantasy, and it's been very apparent. And I just know that because I'm out of fantasy playoffs, that Justin Jefferson is going to go off on Sunday. And I know our secondary is going to make JJ McCarthy look like Tom Brady. We are not going to win this.
Nope. I agree.
Let me add a fun stat, though. You said it's like a 40-something quarterback rating with McCarthy and Justin Jefferson. This season, quarterbacks throwing to Jalen Hyatt, a 4 passer rating.
That's a fun stat. I'm having a lot of fun hearing that, Anthony, so I appreciate it.
It's more than the amount of receptions he has this year, I think. So it's all good. It's unbelievable. Jalen
14, I know the stat. I think Baddog brought it up, and I think he said Bobby posted it. 14 targets, I believe it is, on the year for Hyatt. And 3 of those 14 targets have been intercepted.
Yeah. We throw 9 interceptions all year. 3 of them are when you target Hyatt. And if you watch that route that he ran on Sunday.
Which, by the way, credit to Justin Jefferson, by the way. Like, a lot of people say that wide receivers are divas and they complain a lot. You look at A.J. Brown with the Eagles. They win a Super Bowl last year. They're still winning games this year. He's showing that he's not happy at all there. Justin Jefferson has been a true professional this year with that stat that I threw out with J.J. McCarthy. So just wanted to add that credit to him for, being a good teammate with the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you wanted to come to New York, I'd have no issues.
Yeah, by all means. By all means.
W. Wister Jr., thank you so much. What head coach would be a good fit for we just kind of went over that. So, we just gave you our list. And like I said, I'm not going to be mad whatever direction they go, but I just feel like we really need an experienced guy right now because the last 8 years we brought in coordinators and for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked here. And I'm not saying that they did bring in a coordinator, it wouldn't work, but I just feel like we got to do something different. And the last time we hired a Retread, we won 2 Super Bowls. I'm just throwing it out there. The Imp, my friend. Good to see the Imp. We haven't seen him for a while. I think he meant to say 1964 to 1983.
I was going to say.
Was horrific. And like I said, that was right before I started watching the Giants because I started following them in 1984. So I missed that 20-year period of absolute shit when I think they made the playoffs once, which was in 1981, and ironically beat the Eagles. And then lost to the eventual champion 49ers. But yeah, that was a bad period, and we're going through one now similar to that. This has been about 13 years now. So hopefully we don't have to go another 20. And hopefully it gets turned around because this is just ass right now. Ass.
I'm just thinking about the head coaching search. The more I'm thinking about it, the more it's like I think we all agree that Joe Shane's likely not coming back at this point. And I think that throws a wrench into it, right? Because depending on who the general manager becomes, the potential head coaching candidates could drastically change. Like the reason we got Dable was because Shane was the GM. So we're speculating, and these are names we've heard. But I think you really have to wait to see who we hire at the GM before we could really hone in on who they're likely going to pick as the head coach.
I hope they don't wait until Black Monday. At this point, there's no good reason for you to keep Joe Shane. Just rip the Band-Aid off now so you have a couple weeks to get ahead of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it should be done at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Because if you're going to fire him, what benefit do you have? What benefit is there from keeping him on here right now? If he's not,
if David was still here, I'd say, whatever, play out the rest of the year. But the fact you already fired the head coach, if you're going to get rid of him, do it now. Yeah. You start the search now. So you can, but it is what it is. I don't think they're going to do it at this point because there's only 3 weeks left.
You should just get rid of him. I mean,
the benefit that I think they see though, is that while he's here, he is conducting the head coaching search. And if he's not here, who's compiling the list of candidates, who's reaching out and networking, who's making the short list.
My argument to that, Anthony, is if you're going to fire him, why should he be the one that's conducting the head coaching search?
No, yeah. I know, but somebody has to schedule the interviews, gauge interest. Okay. Somebody has to do all that, and that's what he's doing. His job is to say, "Hey, Mike McCarthy, do you have any interest in this job?" Yeah, maybe I do, and that's. But I guess I don't think that if you put Brandon Brown in that position, he probably doesn't have the connections and networking experience that Joe Shane does. And so I think that's really all it is.
Tutto, hey, grazie. Salutes and respects to the king of New York Giants, meeting all diet Giants fans in America. Greetings from our entire club heading to Manchester, England. Please pray for my British victims. Nah, fuck them up, Tutto. Fuck them up, bro. Tutto, thank you for doubling up. I love Tutto. He says, Baddog, unfortunately, it's all talks, just fairy tales and bedtime stories, mate. Ain't about what you guys want or what we want. Moron Mara got habits of picking the cheapest options available on the market.
It's a better nickname than Dable had. It's a better nickname than Dable.
Moron Mara. Yeah, Fat Fuck Dumbo was pretty good, though. I thought that's pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. It made me laugh every time I read it. That does suck. I mean,
Oh, no. I agree that I think it's a better nickname, but it's more insulting than the Moron Mara.
Yeah. Oh, without question. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, when you have a bad owner, that's what gives you a bad franchise. I think I mentioned this in the last video I did. The teams that struggle the most usually have really shitty ownership because they just always make wrong decisions. You can have a bad coach, and you can bring in a better coach, and you get better results. It doesn't.
What do you think Tutto's nickname would be for Mike McCarthy?
I don't know. We'll have to find out. If McCarthy sucks, I'm sure he'll come up with.
I think it'd be something similar to Dable's if he's not good.
It's got to be. McCarthy's a big dude.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know. Massive Mountain McCarthy. I don't know what the hell I call him. Fat fuck. Maybe just call him Fat Fuck Dumbo too. Who knows? I don't think McCarthy would be bad here, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think McCarthy's ever had a reputation of losing anywhere he went, honestly. So.
No, and now the devil's advocate to that, and what people would argue is he inherited much better situations than what he'd be inheriting here. That's what people would argue. But yes, in the NFL, he's had success wherever he's been.
There's talent here, though. I think there's enough talent to win. We saw that before the firings took place, that we blew a lot of games that we shouldn't have lost. And I feel like if you had an experienced guy like a Mike McCarthy who knows how to close those games out, we're talking. It's a totally different season for us. If we win in Denver, I know they're ifs, but if we win in Dallas, which we should have, if we win in Denver, which we should have, if we beat Detroit, which we should have, if we beat Chicago, which we should have, those are all games we should have won. That's what, 5 games I just named? Was it 5? Was it 6?
At least 4.
Right? Dallas, Denver, Chicago, Dallas, Denver, Chicago, Detroit. It's 4, right? So, and we're 2-12. That would make us 6-8. And then, you could look at the Saints game. We're up by 11 points. Man, we turned the ball over a lot there, but probably shouldn't have lost that. We were up on Green Bay in the fourth quarter. Who the hell knows? That was before everybody got fired. Since this whole shit fell apart, I mean, we not even trying up there now. So
there's no doubt in my mind if McCarthy was our head coach, we'd have at least 4 more wins. At least. Yeah.
So I feel like the talent's good enough. We just the coaching staff really fucked these guys up this year. Just look at the way granted the year's over, but they don't seem too enthused to be sitting in those meetings at all. So Prentice J, thank you. Eric Bieniemy, offense coordinator, Chris Shula, head coach.
Where is Bieniemy? And obviously he was with the Chiefs for forever.
Terrible with Washington. I'm gonna tell you that.
The job with Washington. That's right. Is he still in the NFL? I don't even know. Is he still coaching in the NFL?
He's not good with Washington. That I know.
Yeah. The thing that always held Bieniemy back as a head coaching candidate was the fact that he didn't call the plays with Kansas City. Andy Reid was the play caller. Let's see who the head coach. If it's McCarthy, I don't think he'd pick Bieniemy. But who knows? Who was the DC that he said?
He just said Chris Shula, head coach.
Head coach. Yeah, I think most Giant fans would be happy with that.
Yeah, without question. Dominic, thank you, buddy. Always see my guy Dom on Twitter. He says you guys do a great job. I'm just so sick of the same shit. I hope they finally get the coach right. You're not alone, buddy. We do appreciate the compliment about the show. All of us Giants fans are in the same boat. We're all fucking sick and tired of it. It just sucks. And again, it's the beginning of the year. It's just funny how we were like excited, or at least like while we're close, like we were competing, and we're obviously upset at the result, but like shit, we're competing with the best teams in the league and should have beaten them. And now we're just playing out the year and looking like the regular old Giants. And like I said, it's amazing how you win a game on Monday night, you destroy the defending champions, your most hated rival. You beat them 34-17. It was never close. You just bullied them around the field, and you're 2-4, but it felt like you were 4-2 because of all the, good vibes and the media attention. And for 10 days, the Giants were like on top of the world. All of a sudden, everybody was looking at Cam Scatterbo and Jackson Dart, saying, look at the future of the Giants. And, 50 minutes into that Denver game, it looked like it was going to continue. And then the roof fell in, and we haven't got out from underneath it since. So what we can hope for is next year's better, man. I don't.
That was the turning point. That Denver game was the turning point.
It was awful. It freaking sucks. I hate it. Grim Jow, thank you so much for the $10 donation, my friend. Really, really.
I think he meant to donate this question because he asked the question right beneath it. So just pull up that comment.
Where?
Yeah,
I got it. So what is this I'm seeing about fans saying we need to trade Dart and Mendoza? They're smoking drugs.
They're smoking crack.
Yeah, whatever they're doing is something not normal.
My favorite part about that is you've got even reporters. I think I won't say names. I think even a reporter said, well, if you saw what happened with
made a video on it today.
No, I saw that. But
yeah, Colin Cowherd's a fucking moron, and
Colin Cowherd is an idiot. But I saw a reporter say something about the Josh Rose and Kyler Murray thing.
That's not even terrible.
It's not even comparable because 2019 Josh Rosen was like the worst. 2019, 2018, whatever it was. Rookie season Josh Rosen, that was historically bad. I don't know if there's been a worse quarterback as a rookie since Josh Rosen. He was so bad that season.
He was out of the NFL
not
like
the same
years.
thing. I know. He's like a banker or something now. I've seen his LinkedIn. It's rather impressive. He's got like an extensive job history now since he left the NFL. So good for him for making something of his post-playing career, but it's not even the same situation. It's not like you had the worst rookie quarterback ever. If you put the stats up against all the other Giants rookie quarterbacks, Jackson Dart is having statistically probably the best rookie quarterback season in franchise history right now.
Definitely.
I mean, he's breaking records. He's really good. So it's not the same thing as Josh Rosen to Kyler Murray. If anything, you're probably downgrading. The odds would tell you that you're probably downgrading. After seeing a quarterback who can compete in the NFL, why would you go to one that you've never seen compete in the NFL?
It's both ways with that, too. Like, Dart is far superior, his rookie year at least, is far superior to Josh Rosen's rookie year. And Kyler Murray as a prospect was far superior to Mendoza.
That's true.
It's apples. It's an apples and orange comparison. It's a silly comparison.
And honestly, I would argue you could make the case Jackson Dart coming out is a better prospect than Fernando Mendoza coming out. And I understand Mendoza was the Heisman Trophy winner. Mendoza's going to go do great things in the playoffs this year. I get it. Jackson Dart played in the SEC, threw for like 4,400 yards last year, something ridiculous. Mendoza threw for, was it 2,900? Yeah, he led the nation with 33 passing touchdowns. But if you take the combined touchdowns, rushing and passing, Jackson Dart beats him in those stats. And I know stats aren't everything, but Jackson Dart had really good game film as well. He was a very good quarterback at Ole Miss. To give up on his talent after a year just because he's, been to the blue tent 5 times? Get the fuck out of here.
And the other
Get
thing,
the fuck out of here.
And the other thing I see a lot of people bring up is, oh, well, we could trade Dart and we'll get similar draft compensation to if we were to trade down from 1, and we could still take Mendoza if they prefer Mendoza. In my eyes, that's not going to work, because if every team around the league knows you're drafting a quarterback at 1, they're going to know, okay, well, they need to trade this guy. You're not going to get as much as you would for Dart because you would lose leverage because they know you're desperate to trade him if you're looking to draft a quarterback at number 1 overall. So the draft compensation you would get for trading 1, at least in my opinion, even though I think Dart should probably garnish more, I think a lot of the teams around the league value the unknown rather than the known commodity, which I think in a lot of ways is not thinking clearly. But when you factor in the fact that I think the Giants would lose a lot of leverage if every team knew they were desperate to trade Dart, you'd get a lot more draft compensation by just trading down from 1 and accruing a lot of draft picks and just keeping Dart. So I just don't think it makes a lot of sense, no matter how you want to slice it.
And think about that argument. If a fan is saying, if the Giants trade Jackson Dart, they could get similar compensation to the number 1 overall pick. Wouldn't that mean that Jackson Dart has proven to be a highly valuable commodity? I mean, if you're talking about multiple first-round picks to pick first overall, you're talking about multiple first-round picks for Jackson Dart. That would mean that the league values him in the same vein as they value a Herbert or an Allen, any of these other guys that would cost you multiple first-round picks. I mean, think about what you're saying. It's like, it's absolutely. Jackson Dart is really good, and I'm excited for next year because when he gets a good coach, he's going to be even better.
Jackson Dart is not the reason the Giants are losing football games.
Exactly.
We know why we're losing football games. How the fuck is Mendoza going to make the run defense better? How is he going to make the defense better?
And look, if Dart was playing like JJ McCarthy has been playing, I could see the argument. But like we have all said, Dart is having a great season so far. He has 20 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Like, if your complaint is him going into the tent, fine, but that's something that can be taught to a degree. He's going to learn how to figure it out. He hasn't even played a whole season yet. He's also doing all of that without Scattaboo and Neighbors and an interim head coach.
And a guy that can't catch a football in Slayton.
And against a very good, and they played some very good defenses too.
Yeah, the whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. It's stupid.
It's absolutely stupid. I got a couple more questions we'll get to right after this. Let's hear from the sponsor, Sleeper, 30 seconds. Back to the rest of your questions.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today, get up to $100 credit using the code HMA. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
And don't forget, if you click the link in the description and open a brand new Sleeper account, you get $20 for nothing, just for opening an account using our link. You get $20 to play with. So check it out. I got to get out of here. The Lakers play in a couple of minutes, so I got to hurry through these. He says, W. Wister, if we trade out of the number 1 pick, who do you like at pick 4 or 7? I like
best player available. To me, what I think is great is that at 4 or 7, I think there's a lot of great options. You can get Arvell Reese, the linebacker from Ohio State.
Yeah.
The safety from Ohio State, Caleb Downs. You can get the cornerback from LSU, Mansour Delane. You can get Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson. Like, to me, any single one of those guys is a great pick for the Giants. Like, you cannot go wrong. And one of them is bound to be available at either 4 or 7. And I'm probably missing one.
And it's hard for any of us to pinpoint one guy that we prefer before we see what they do before the draft. Like, if they trade or sign for an established wide receiver, we're gonna cross the Tate off the list, for example, and we're gonna hone in on defense. So you got to kind of wait until free agency and potential trades leading up into the draft before we can really pinpoint who the one guy we prefer. But to Adriana's point, any one of those guys I'd be thrilled with, especially if you're getting future draft compensation.
Yeah, same. I like she said, I think best player available, whatever it is. We get a lot of holes there, so could use any of them. Tutto grazie again, Bazzano. Tony, you would keep Moron Joe Shane on the payroll and waste no money to bring in a future Giants head coach if he already knows that he gets canned any day. He would retaliate and bring in another shitty head coach, mate.
So what I was saying, I wasn't saying that he was going to hire a head coach. I was saying that he's just doing the tasks that somebody needs to do until the end of the season. Like, there's a lot that a general manager does. You've got an entire scouting staff right now that has to be directed, go across the country, pick and choose where they're going during these playoff games. Someone has to direct them. Someone has to tell them what to do. That's Joe Shane. You're not going to fire him early because all of these other things that operationally the New York Giants need to get done, he does that. And replacing him on short notice for the final 3 weeks of the season, it actually doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, if you want to kick off the general manager search early, okay, go ahead and do it. You don't think the Giants are already putting out feelers and speaking to potential candidates? Of course they are. They have to be. Of course they are. You don't have to fire Joe Shane to do that. Firing Joe Shane only creates more of a mess internally in an organization that's already dealing with internal turmoil. That's all that it is. So for the next 3 weeks, he's going to stay doing his job because somebody has to do that job. Somebody has to organize the scouts. Somebody has to search who the head coaches are, engage their interest, and that's pretty much it. So he's just doing his job.
And I see Leslie Goldstein, who I think is a longtime subscriber of mine in Bad Dogs. I'll answer this question for you. He says, if you know you're being fired, talking in the context of Joe Shane, why do the job with any success? For the same reason that a player that knows they're not going to be back with the team does their job to the best of their ability, because you're auditioning for the next position. So Joe Shane, make no mistake about it, when he interviews for whatever, an assistant general manager position, whatever it may be from around the league, they're going to go back. They're going to ask the Giants. So that's the reasoning for that, is he wants to go off, even if he knows he's going to be fired, he wants to end it on a good note.
Yeah, you don't want to end on a bad note. You want to be professional all the way through it so that you can get another job. It's just like if you knew you were, leaving a job yourself, you wouldn't want to fuck it up the last 3 weeks going into another job where they're like, hey, how did you do? Well, he was good until like the last 2 weeks. He just said, fuck it. And kind of left us hanging there. And then another company's going to go, well, what if he does that to us? So, Prentice, thank you. Says dream draft scenario, number 1 pick, Downs at 5, Styles in the teens, Chris Bell on top of the second. I haven't gotten that far into the draft yet. So I
like Downs. I know a safety's not a sexy position to take that early. I think he's a transcendent talent. I don't know if he's number 1 on my list, but I'd be very happy if they took Downs. I think he's really good.
Me too.
We're going to see if we end up with the number 1 pick. We got 3 more games to lose. This one should be easy. The Tank Bowl in a couple weeks. That'll be interesting. With that said, I'm going to get out of here. Again, thank you guys and girls for watching so much. Appreciate it. If you haven't done so, if you can hit the thumbs up and subscribe. That would help us out. Check us out on TikTok and Instagram as well. You can find us somewhere if you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and Amazon. If you listen to us on Apple, could leave a 5-star review. That would be absolutely fantastic. And a big shout out to our sponsor, Sleeper and SeatGeek, for sponsoring Giants Collective this football season. With that said, for Anthony, Adriana, and Entertainah, enjoy the football tonight. It's a good game, Rams and Seahawks. We'll see you on Tuesday. It's Bad Dig Dizzle. I'm out. Peace.